being stuck inside due to weather, or even just dealing with shorter, colder days that might keep you indoors more, can mess with our routines and our moods. Seasonal affective disorder occurs when a deeper depression takes hold with a change in the seasons, and is often attributed to change in hormone and neurotransmitter levels. Okay, so it's a bit wordy, you know, I'll give you that, but what it's trying to get at is there is an actual physical reason why sometimes our mood shifts when we turn those clocks back, and you know, the earlier nights come in, and maybe it's dark when you, I was going to say go to work, but a lot of people are working at home, when you wake up maybe and start work, and then it's dark when we finish work and so on. And I'm not for a moment suggesting that anybody's got seasonal affective disorder, you know, which is called SAD, by the way. But what I am saying is sometimes, you know, we might not have the disorder, but it does knock us sometimes. So why does it knock us, and what can we do about it? That's the key thing. How can we kick away those winter blues? The main thing it actually does is it saps energy. Okay, when we have lots of sunlight, long days, we get more vitamin D, for argument's sake, amongst other things in the system from the sunlight, which helps it give us energy. Of course, shorter days, darker earlier, even during the day, lots of cloud cover, maybe we're inside more because it's not as nice outside and so on. It tends to sap our energy levels, and that's what we kind of need to look at. And there's two ways that this affects us. The first is physical, and the second is mental. Okay, so how does it affect us physically? How does it affect us mentally? So we're going to look at those things, and I've kind of got 8 things to do to beat winter blues, and we're going to look at those 8 things today, and what can we do in order to kind of kick away those winter blues. But if you've noticed a bit of, you know, of a mood shift, if you've kind of think, oh God, it's horrible, you know, the weather was dreadful where we are yesterday, and I spoke to 3 or 4 people yesterday in the offices where we work, and you know, the amount of people that were like, oh, it's dreadful outside, oh, it's horrible outside, isn't it? Now I know they were relating to the weather, but just because it's dreadful outside doesn't mean it's going to be dreadful inside, for start with, or it doesn't kind of like, you know, shouldn't kind of put us off for what we're going to do for the rest of the day. During lockdown, I was in the evenings. I've been building a workshop in my garden, and I went in it last night for a few hours, and I got home, and in the summer it was amazing what the mind shift does. I'd get home, you know, have something to eat, and still have loads of energy, thinking, oh, do you know what, I've got till 10 o'clock tonight before I lose the light, it's going to be great, I can do loads. Whereas last night I got in, I had something to eat, and then kind of thought, God, it's late, isn't it? It's late to go out there now. And I looked at my watch, and it wasn't late. But it felt later. It felt like 8, 9 o'clock at night, whereas actually it was kind of 6, 7 o'clock at night. And in the summer that wouldn't have been the case. So why does it happen to us in the winter? Well, it affects the way we think, it affects the way we feel, it zaps our energy, and we don't particularly have the same levels, and that's what we want to be able to. We want to be able to kind of kick the winter blues away and be just as effective with the same levels of energy in the winter as in the summer, don't we? So let's have a look at these then. The rest of the session is about these 8 steps, okay? These 8 things that we can do, that we can talk about in order to kick away those winter blues. Okay, so I'm going to give you the 8 steps, and then we'll go through each one, okay? So, first one is keep active. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but I'll put a bit of a twist on it. I'm not just on about exercise. So we'll look at that in a moment, okay? Because we've kind of done some work. One of the sessions I remember that we did a number of months ago was about physical exercise. So yes, that's important. But there's a little bit more to it, okay, when it comes to kicking away the winter blues, because we've got to bring the exercise mentally in there as well. Get outside, we'll talk about why it's important to actually get outside and not stay in. Fuel up. We're going to talk about eating your way to feeling better. Now, excuse me, when I say eating your way to feeling better, I'm sure that conjures up some pictures in your head of what you'd like to eat to make you feel better. But guess what? It's not about those things. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Fuel up. Reset the clock. This is about resetting the biological clock. So we'll talk about that. Maintaining a routine, because often our routine shifts throughout the seasons. And this is actually a way with... If I was doing this session in a normal year, Away with Winter Blues is still a nicely valid session to run in the winter. However, it has been massively compounded this year by COVID-19. Okay? And I don't know if anybody saw Boris's news update last night, quite interesting. After there was an announcement about a vaccine that was potentially available pre-Christmas, and then Boris came out and went, everybody just calm down. So everybody just calm down a little bit. Yeah, yes, it's looking very good, but there's more hoops to jump through. He went on to talk about, he was asked a question about mental health, which he didn't really answer, to be honest. But a lot of it also links into routine, and our routines change over the seasons. However, they've massively been impacted this year by COVID, as we know. So, for instance, if you're not going to the office anymore and you're working at home, and now winter has come, well, put it this way, somebody said to me, and I had a conversation with them about this, when the first lockdown happened, okay, so March, so April, May, June, July, imagine if those 4 months had been November, December, January and February. Okay, now, I'm touching wood here, touching wood, okay, there you go, that's not the case again, but the reason a lot of people were able to deal with that initial lockdown was because of the summer months, because of being able to sit outside in your garden and work, because you're able to go for walks in the bright sunshine, and so on and so on. Whereas now, it's actually harder, and we're in a second version of lockdown now. It's particularly harder because of the dark, because of the cold, and so on and so on and so on. So maintaining a routine is really important, but our routine's been shot, so we need to look at that. Keeping busy, but not always busy. So again, we'll come to that as well, because that's quite important. Sometimes we need to be busy at not doing anything. So we'll come on to that. Sometimes we need to just have a break. Okay, I was speaking to somebody yesterday, one of your colleagues, and they kind of last week just needed a bit of a break, just needed a few hours to have a bit of a break, not do anything, but sometimes we beat ourselves up for that. So that's quite important. Keep busy, but sometimes keep busy actually having a break. So we'll talk about that. Look to the future. When we get stuck in today, we get very stuck in today, or in the winter, or in the cold. Very short-termism starts to happen in the brain. So actually it helps us to look forward. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, of course, as you guys know, if you are on these sessions regularly, or you've worked with me for the last 5 or 6 years, a key in order to change the way you feel is to change the way you think. So I'll put that to last. If you are new to these sessions, changing the way you think impacts your emotions impact your actions, and your actions impact your results, which we'll finish off with today. So if we do all of those things, we can kick. You can't see my leg there, can you? I was just kicking, doing a drop kick there, like an American football kick. We can kick winter blues away, but it's kind of going to be doing little bits of all of these things that are going to help us feel better and be more productive and ultimately happier in the workplace and at home, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so as always, guys, today, if you want to use the chat box facility, use the chat box facility, please feel free. We've got great numbers, we're up to 65, so let's start looking at these 8. At the end of the session, just to remind you, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the new sessions that we've put in going forward. There's a slight tweak to the way that we're going to run 1 or 2 of these sessions as well, and I'll give you all of my details if you want to get in touch for all the new people that are joining us on these sessions. Okay, so keep active is the first one. If you have worked with me for a while, you may recognise this energy chart. Okay, what we've got here is 4 different energy zones: performance zone, recovery zone, burnout zone, and survival zone. Now, I'm not going to go into detail today, but the reason that I've put this up is because if we're going to keep active, we need to keep active in these 2 zones. So what we've got is performance zone and recovery zone. Okay, so now in the performance zone, your energy is high. You have lots of energy and you are passionate, focused, confident, challenging, energetic. Okay, that's all great energy, isn't it? Yeah. However, if you are low energy, but it is still positive, you are peaceful, mellow, relaxed, unfocused, calm. Okay, now people often forget this mode. There's a big misconception as well when people assume what best behaviour is. When I ask people, what are you like at your best? You know, what words describe you at your best? A lot of the words I get out is energetic and confident and challenging and motivational and inspirational. That's all fine, that's great, that's brilliant, don't get me wrong. But we can be calm, focused, carefree, peaceful at the same time. So, later on, one of the end slides that we've got, we need to have a nice balance between these 2 things. If you want to be at your best, if you want to kick away winter blues, yes, you want high energy to do all of this stuff, but you'll have to make time to do the recovery zone, because if you don't, what happens is we end up in the burnout zone. And the burnout zone is exhausted, defeated, burnt out, sad, upset, annoyed, things like that. That's what we call the burnout zone. And of course, we have to be very, very careful of the survival zone. That's when we've got high energy that's directed in the wrong way. Then you're angry, defensive, fearful, anxious. So anxiety comes out in that zone there, okay? So bearing in mind your energy gets hit in winter, okay, generally. Why? Lack of vitamin D, lack of sunlight, cold rather than warm on our bodies. Central heating isn't great either. Okay, so it's great to keep us warm, but it's quite forced. It sometimes makes your chest tight. It's not particularly great, to be honest. You know, my guys in the office go mad with me. It's not great, as we have the radiator on and the window open, and I'm sure that's not that environmentally friendly, so I apologise for that as well. But the fresh air is so important, which is why getting outside is one of the things we're going to talk about. So just bear this in mind. Energy levels, we need to be up here and have high energy. How do we do that? Well, we kick away winter blues and we do all the other stuff we're going to talk about today. But you also need to make time for the recovery zone, which again we will come on to in a little while. So what I've got here now is an energy pattern during the day, because our energy is in our hands. Okay, we don't just wake up with a certain amount of energy. It's not like we've got like a battery indicator on our breastplate here that kind of you wake up and you kind of go, oh God, I've only got 3 bars today instead of 5. It doesn't kind of work that way. Our energy is up to us. We generate our own energy. How? By a lot of the things that we're going to discuss today. What you eat, the exercise, all that type of stuff, mindfulness and all that. We generate our energy. But what we've got here is we've got low to high on a scale of 1 to 10 energy. And then across the bottom here, we've got from 5 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock midnight. And if you were to take your average day, Okay, and I know that's difficult because your days might change and so on and so on and so on. But if you were to take your average day, you know, at my average day, let's say it's an office day and I'm not delivering work. Let's say I'm not in the studio like I am now. If I'm in the office, 5 o'clock, I'm normally in bed. I'll be very honest with you, okay? 6, maybe, I'm starting to get up at that point. Okay, by 7, I'm absolutely awake. By 8 o'clock, I'm probably here. By 9 o'clock, I'm at number 10. That continues till just after lunch. I get a bit of a dip, and then it comes back up. Then I tend to get a dip around 3 o'clock. My energy starts to drop off. Don't ask me why, just tends to do. Must be a pattern that I've got into. Probably drops down to like low medium, and then it kicks back in, kind of 5, 6, 7 o'clock. And last night it was up till about 8, 9 o'clock, and then by 10 o'clock I'm normally in bed, okay? So it drops back down. Now, you can map your energy pattern out, no problem at all. And if anybody wants this document, I can make sure people get it. But if you can map your energy pattern out, it doesn't mean that's how your energy has to be. So, tomorrow, I'm in the office most of the day. I don't have any studio work. I do have a phone call at 3 o'clock, or a Zoom call, should I say, at 3 o'clock. Now, I know my energy is normally low at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So what can I do at 2:30 to give me more energy? It's as simple as that. And what I mean is, what can give me more energy in a great way, not just have a cup of coffee or eat some chocolate, okay, or something sugary. That will give me a short boost, won't it? But we all know that actually there's a drop after that, isn't there? So what can I do in order to do that? Now, some of the things that I can do are within these 8 steps for today that I'm going to take you through. So the reason I've put that up, just have a think about your energy pattern. It'll be different at the weekend, then it will be different. You know, during the day it'll be different if you're in meetings than if you're not in meetings, and so on and so on. But just bear that in mind. We are, the learning point to take away is, we are in charge of our energy. Some of our energy is going to be in performance zone, and some of our energy is going to be in recovery zone, okay? And we've got to do that recovery zone. If you speak to an athlete, a gold medal winning athlete, they will tell you their rest days are as important as their training days. So when do you give yourself time to recover? Okay, and don't say what one delegate once said to me. I recover 9 to 5 during the week. That's not really the point, is it? Yeah. When are you on performance zone? And when do you have a little bit of recovery? And it might be you recover in the evenings, and so on and so on and so on. Okay? So, just bear those 2 things in mind. Which zone we need to be in. We don't want to be over there. This is negative energy. This is positive energy. Over here, performance zone, recovery zone. And what's your energy pattern for the day? Because you can choose what that's going to be if you give yourself the right instructions, which we will finish off with today. Okay? So that's the first thing. If you say things like, oh, it's horrible, I hate winter. I hate it when the dark nights. I hate it when you wake up and it's dark and you go to work and then you come home and it's dark and it's cold and it's miserable. If you say all of those things, guess what that's going to do to your energy level? It's going to, I tried to whistle then, didn't come out, see that? It's going to go, it's going to drop, isn't it, your energy level straight away, okay? So just be careful. Right, keeping active. Keeping active is very, very important. So, understand which zone you're in. So be active in performance zone or be active in recovery zone, okay? So be active at relaxing. We can do that, okay? But most people know that being active means obviously moving around, okay? Map your daily energy patterns, as we've said, okay? Physical exercise releases endorphins. We'll talk about that in a moment. And I'm sure most of the people on this session today know that it releases endorphins, okay? When you don't feel like exercising, that's the best time to do it. So just take that in, excuse me, for a moment. So I just thought, we've just had somebody just join us. Welcome to the call. When you don't feel, excuse me, like exercising, that's the best time to go and do it. So if you get home at night or you finish work and you've had something to eat and you're kind of like, I should go out for a walk or whatever it may be, or do you know what, it's cold, it's raining, I can't be bothered, that's the best time to actually go and do it. And I'll guarantee you, you will feel better at that point. The key is to just get out of the door. I'm sure that there's been people on this call in the past that have forced themselves to get out in the past, to go to the gym or go outside or go for a walk, whatever, and you felt better afterwards. You haven't felt like doing it, but you're glad you went afterwards. So when you don't feel like it, that's the best time to do it. Also, make it daily. One of these sessions, one of these slides is about routine, keeping your routine. If you have a routine of exercise, and when I say exercise, I don't mean, you haven't got to run a marathon. Okay, it could be just a little bit of exercise. It could be a walk around your garden. I phoned my accountant the other day, 8 o'clock in the morning, just to catch up about a couple of things, and he was walking around his garden. That's how he starts his day, just to walk around his garden, and he was talking to me as he was walking around his garden. Put a coat on, put a scarf on. We're all good. We're all good to go, okay? So, we all know about keeping active. Getting outside, I've just mentioned walking around the garden. Fresh air engages the brain. It releases different chemical, which is why I have my window open in the office, okay? So, what's it like if you're in a room that's really stuffy? It really does something to the brain. So fresh air, it engages the brain. Also water, drinking lots of water as well, that will help engage the brain when it comes to it, okay? It lifts your mood. If you've had some fresh air or you've been outside and so on, and of course you've got that nice warm feeling of coming back into a nice warm place when you get there as well. It's also an opportunity to be mindful. Now, at 11:30 today, we're doing a session called Mental Health MOT. Okay. Now, just to kind of manage your expectations here, I'm not a mental health nurse, but I do know enough about the subject to be able to go, what are the few things that we can do in order to put an MOT in place? And MOT obviously stands for Ministry of Transport, but you know where I'm coming from. What is it sometimes we need to just to stop and go, how can we help our brains? Mindfulness, I'm going to mention that and just talk about what that is in the next session. Okay. Often there is, it's even today it's got a stigma to it, like it's a bit new age, okay? And actually it's not new age. People have been doing it for thousands of years, and people generally do it anyway. They just don't know they're doing it. But it does give you a chance to be mindful when you go outside. It sharpens the brain, and you're able to maybe calm the mind a little bit and be more mindful. So we're going to come on to mindfulness in a little bit more detail in the next session that we're going to do this afternoon, okay? Also, going outside charges up your immune system, okay? It wakes it up. If you are inside, nice and warm, your immune system, it doesn't need to do anything, okay? When you go outside, it kicks it in, because you start to maybe be a little bit more cold and so on, so your immune system kind of goes, oh, hang on, we're being called for, and it kicks in your immune system. So that means maybe the cough or cold that you normally get in the winter, if you're regularly going for walks and stuff like that, and obviously, like I've said, you've got to make sure you're warm and you scarf and hat and or everything you need. Don't go out and catch a cold. That's ridiculous. But going out, it charges your immune system up. It gets it to a point where it's ready. It's ready to fight. And of course, this year, how important is that? Majorly important. I know a lot of people, and some of them are on this call today, that when we went into the first lockdown, there were people that were going out for walks at lunchtime. There was people, doing outside exercise and so on, and they found it so beneficial. And I'll almost bet majority of those people have stopped doing that. And that's why, because they probably fell out of the routine. Why? Because now it's a bit colder and so on. But it really does charge up your immune system, okay? So really worth doing. Get outside. Remember that little girl's face there, how happy she is, okay? Getting outside, it really does make a difference, and it will, if you embrace that, it helps kick away those blues, those winter blues, okay? Good stuff. It also reduces stress as well. Remember, stress, lots of cortisol in the system if you actually start moving around, especially outside, fresh air, exercise, endorphins start to eat away at the cortisol, and it makes you feel less stressed, de-stressed, and so on and so on. If you go for a run, even more effective than if you go for a walk, but if you don't run, walking is absolutely fine. Okay, so let's get out. So first of all, keep active. The second thing, let's do it outside. Let's get outside, okay? Just make sure you're wrapped up when you go out, okay? And it will increase your energy level, as we've just discussed. So, I did have to giggle when I put this slide together. Fuel up. Eat your way to a better mood. Now, I know straight away, because there's a number of people on this call that I know quite well. I know straight away, in fact, let's just have a quick look. Let's have a quick look. I know quite well there's a few people on this call that when I say eat your way to a better mood, they will start to conjure up cakes and cream and sweets and crisps and chocolate and so on and so on and so on, okay? Not to disappoint, but that's absolutely really not the right thing to do, okay? I'm not going to take cakes and crisps away for everybody. If you like eating them, that's fine. But as you know, sugar, unless it's natural sugar coming from fruit and things like that, sugar in tea, coffee, cakes, sweets, crisps, whatever, it will give us a short-term energy boost. We know that, but it also then sometimes turns into a bit of a depressant afterwards. It drops us right down. So if we need to eat our way to a better mood, this is what we need to do. It's quite a big slide, this is, okay? So this is what we need to do. So no short-term sugar boosts, okay? And in brackets I've put okay, maybe occasionally. Alright, so if you need a bit of a boost bar or whatever, yeah, fine. Energy drinks, not great. I'm sorry to say, if there's those people out there that love them, not brilliant. You know, your body kind of also gets a little bit addicted to some of the stuff that's in there. So occasionally, as you can imagine, you never want to give me a Red Bull. That would not be good. You know, as you guys know, I can talk for 8 hours. Give me a Red Bull and see what happens. So we make our own energy if we can do it in the right way. We don't particularly need those things, okay? But occasionally, if you want a cake or whatever, then something naughty. We all know that that's okay if we do it in, you know, moderate it. Yeah. Okay. Proteins. Proteins is good. Remember, this is all about kicking away the winter blues. So, proteins contain amino acids and omega-3, which directly lift your mood and energy. Okay? So, if you can eat, make sure you're eating protein regularly. Okay? Again, you know, or, you know, not too much, not too little protein. And again, I'm not a dietitian. I'm just giving you the things that are going to help you fuel up properly to be able to do that. So remember, those amino acids and omega-3, they actually, it's been proven that they lift mood and lift energy. Okay? Berries, things like that. Berries that you get, like blueberries and strawberries and, you know, all that, any type of berry cortisol. Sorry, they release that's not actually right. They release the antidote to cortisol, if you like, okay? So they help with the stress hormone. Okay, so if you're stressed, okay, eating berries and things like that certainly going to help. It's the anti it fights cortisol, that should say, okay? Folic acid. The only time I've ever heard about folic acid really is when my ex-wife was pregnant both times. I think it's quite important, isn't it, when you're pregnant to have folic acid. However, it creates serotonin, folic acid. Serotonin is your happy drug, your happy chemical, okay? So if you can eat things with folic acid in it, you know, greens, oranges, beans, seeds, things like that. And remember, this is all about giving us energy. If you think, you know, and let me ask you a question. Just go to the chat box, guys. What does a lion do when they've just eaten a big meal? What does a lion do? They've just eaten a great big meal. What do they do? A burp. Not in spot. I like it. Yeah. What does a lion do? Once they've eaten a great big meal. Sleep. Stacey said sleep. Sleep. Thank you. Charlotte, Stacey, great. It's all coming in. Have a sleep, Vicky, Gabby, great. Well, you never tend to see sleeping squirrels. Every time you see a squirrel, they tend to be moving quite quickly, don't they? What do squirrels eat? Seeds. And this is what they now reckon. If you want lots of energy during the day, eat little and often. So eat little and often rather than a big meal. Yeah? A big meal, or 3 big meals a day, for argument's sake, okay? Again, I'm not a dietitian, you know, I don't know what state your body's in. I'm just giving you the view of kind of what's going on. So, if you can eat stuff with folic acid in it, it releases serotonin, your happy chemical. Okay, that's going to help you, yeah? B12. B12 staves off depression. That's linked to fighting depression. That's things like dairy and seafood. You get B12 in. Okay? So again, you might be thinking to yourself, well, yeah, well, I eat a bit of that, I eat a bit of that, I eat a bit of that. That's great. I'm just making you aware of it, because all of this stuff, it kicks away those winter blues, makes you feel better. Yeah? Vitamin D. We've talked about it, haven't we? Vitamin D. Yeah, orange juice, things like that, but also from the sunlight, getting outside, and so on and so on. Now, chocolate. And earlier on I said chocolate was bad, didn't I, because of the sugar hit, okay? There is some evidence. People are going to take me word for word for this. There is some evidence that chocolate can be helpful. However, generally only dark chocolate with a high cocoa content. Okay? So you know you can buy these specialised chocolates now, can't you? 70% cocoa, 80% cocoa. The more cocoa, the more bitter the chocolate tastes, really. But it generates antioxidants in the system. So the higher the cocoa content, it will help you generate antioxidants to clean the system out, okay? So, if you want to fuel up, you can eat chocolate, but there's a couple of caveats around it as well as obviously all the other stuff. So hopefully that's been useful for some of you. Carbohydrates for energy, but of course make sure that they're the right carbs. You don't want to eat loads and loads of carbs because they just sit on you all day, especially if you're not exercising or not getting outside, and so on and so on and so on. Okay? Magnesium, bananas, okay? To improve sleep and reduce anxiety. So magnesium helps to improve sleep and reduce anxiety. So again, you can get a lot of that out of bananas as well. Okay, so I'm just going to nip back to that before we carry on. So there's quite a lot of information there, and like I say, I'm not a dietitian, but it doesn't take a genius to work out, do you know what, if I want to feel a bit better, it's like what fuel you put into the car. If you've got a diesel car and you put petrol in it, it's not going to work very well, is it? Okay, it needs the right fuel in order to work properly. Maybe we want the super diesel instead of the normal diesel to go in, and maybe we start putting super diesel in for the winter. And what I mean by that is all of these things, okay? Omega-3, folic acid, B12, you know, antioxidants, magnesium, all this kind of stuff, really, really useful to be able to put in to your system, okay? Reset the clock. What do I mean by resetting the clock, okay? A change of daylight hours can affect your health and mood. We know that, okay? We lose an hour, all of a sudden it's darker, earlier. It messes with our internal clock. Okay, so this is about resetting your clock. You taking charge of your clock and your energy patterns during the day, okay? So less daylight can disrupt melatonin levels. Okay, now melatonin levels melatonin, if you trigger your melatonin gland, it normally helps you sleep. Okay? So a lot of sleep therapy is designed to trigger melatonin in the system. So, you know, you've got these apps and things that you can watch and listen to, and it's supposed to trigger melatonin. Now, less daylight also triggers melatonin. It tells us to sleep more. Okay? Now, if you do need to sleep more, then sleep more. That's fine. But often, we kind of now need to, if you don't need to sleep more, but the melatonin levels have gone high because of the winter and the change of clock, we almost need to reset the clock. we all know we need to tell our brains not to trigger that melatonin gland until we need it later on in the evening. This is why it's never very good to watch loads of TV before you go to bed, for argument's sake. Maybe you're lying in bed, you're watching TV, you turn TV off and you try to go to sleep, and then you can't go to sleep, and the reason for that is that your eyes have just been active watching a false light, okay, so your melatonin gland hasn't triggered to make you go to sleep, basically. But we can use this the other way round as well. So if our melatonin gland is triggering too early and making us feel sleepy, then we need to reset the clock. So how do we do that? We need to trick the brain. You know, for anybody that knows me, I will always tell you that your brain is the most powerful machine on the planet, but it will only do what you tell it to do. Okay, so if you tell it to do one thing, it will generally follow your instruction. And sometimes we just need to trick it or tell it the opposite thing so that melatonin level isn't being triggered and making us feel sleepy on the back of it, okay? So what's useful for this? There's something out there now called light therapy. I don't know if anybody's come across this before. It'd be really interesting to know if there's anybody on the call, people that use this or know somebody that use it. But basically, light therapy has been proven as effective as medication according to a Harvard Uni report, okay? So what light therapy is kind of, you can buy light therapy boxes, they're about £30 off Amazon, and it's actually a dose of sunlight. So it gives you a false dose of sunlight, but it's not like a TV, it's designed to actually mimic sunlight, and you can set it. So in the morning, if you wake up and it's dark, you can set it so the light gradually goes from dull to bright, and it kind of wakes you up, okay? And people that have been doing light boxes for 30 minutes a day tend to have more energy. That's what the report is saying, and it tends to actually, it turns off the melatonin gland, and it wakes you up, basically. So I'm not suggesting you all run out and buy a light box, but what I am suggesting is this is really quite useful. I'm sure you can get apps and things like that. They're probably not as effective as actually buying a light box, but I'm sure you can. The key thing is we need to trick that melatonin level, because we don't want it during the day. We don't want it kicking in. Just because the dark nights are getting earlier, potentially in our society, we don't want to go to sleep at 5 o'clock in the evening, do we? We want to go to sleep at 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever you want to go to sleep at. So that light box therapy, it's becoming more common. If you type in light box in Amazon, there's hundreds of them. Okay, it's becoming more common. And I'm not saying you've got to take 30 minutes out of your day. It just needs to be somewhere near you when you do that. Now, check out apps. You know, if you've got light boxes, then fine, no problem. But it does trick that melatonin, okay? There are other ways to trick melatonin. The best way, without a light box, is what you're saying to yourself, your self-talk, which we'll come on to right at the end, okay? But just bear that in mind. We need to reset that clock, okay? How can we reset it? Well, you could use things like light therapy, or we can reset it by triggers and what we say to ourselves, which is what we're going to finish off with in a moment. So let's reset that clock. Oh yeah, that was the dawn stimulator that I talked about there. Okay, make your bed. Keep your routine. Some of you may remember me talking about this way back in April when we first actually all started working at home and all of our routines were shot and people were really struggling with their routine. And the reason it's called Make Your Bed is because, oh, I've gone too quick, I've gone too far. It's because of that gentleman there. Now, please, if you haven't done so already, after the session today, go onto YouTube and type in Make Your Bed. And you will see a short video, it's about 3 minutes long, of this Navy SEAL Admiral, ex-Navy SEAL Admiral, talking about, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed, that is one task completed for the day. That one task will lead to many tasks. Then by the end of the day, you have completed many tasks. It makes you feel great and you're able to start your next day. And if you have a bad day, you can come home to a freshly made bed, ready to write it off, get up and start again. and change the world going forward. Now, he says it much more inspirationally than I am ever going to say it. But the reason that I've brought this up is because routine is so important. Start the day with a task completed, whatever that task is. Make the breakfast, make your bed, drive to work safely, whatever. Start your day with a task and keep a routine. Okay, so build all the stuff we've talked about today: eating right, fueling up, resetting the clock, exercise, getting out. Maybe build all of that into a daily routine, and then you are more likely to follow it permanently going forward. Okay, one task completed will lead to many tasks completed, as I've said. It also builds self-esteem, and it gives you a feel-good factor. Doesn't matter what's happening outside, doesn't matter whether it's dark or it's raining. If you have several tasks completed, I had 5 jobs on my jobs list yesterday, well, 5 A jobs on my job list yesterday, and I completed all 5, and it doesn't often happen that, and I actually felt a real sense of satisfaction by the end of the day yesterday, and was able to go to the dentist as well, and also come out not in pain, which I always thought was quite good as well. So keep your routine. Really, really important, because it makes us feel good. However, the one thing I would say about routine is make sure you've got the right routine. Because if you've got the wrong routine, getting up, talking to yourself in a bad way, feeling miserable, not getting any exercise, eating a load of rubbish, staying indoors, not ideal. So think about all those things today, and maybe from tomorrow, or even from right after this call, build yourself a new routine for the day. If you used to go out for a walk at lunchtime during the summer, put it back in. Put it back into your routine today, because it's going to make a massive benefit for you, okay? Keep busy, but appropriately. I came to this earlier on, brought it back up now. Why? Okay, because it's got to be appropriate busy. In other words, you've got to be in the performance zone and get busy in the recovery zone, okay? So, at work, get busy working, but also get busy being sociable. Okay, you guys know I've had a bee in my bonnet a long time. Social distancing is not the right phrase. Physical distancing is the right phrase. We should not be being less sociable just because we're not walking down the corridor in an office with somebody. Get on Teams, get face to face with somebody, give somebody a call today and just say, hi, how are you? Yes, you've got lots of other meetings and things to do, I understand that, but keep busy socially, keep busy at work socially, that is. Keep busy with your KPIs. Yeah? Keep working towards your key performing indicators. Keep ticking off jobs in your jobs list. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to build your self-esteem, okay? Keep busy personally with your family. When's the last time you saw your family face to face on a screen? Yeah, I know we can't see them face to face at the moment in person, but when's the last time you video called one of your family? Yeah, or all of your family? Maybe you do it a lot, maybe you don't do it enough. I have to remind myself to do this with my family, okay? And when I've done it, I'm so glad. My 91-year-old nan was over the moon when me and my daughters FaceTimed her, yeah? And by the way, my nan's 91. If she can use FaceTime, anybody can use FaceTime. Hobbies and time for you. Make time for you still. Just because there's earlier nights doesn't mean we've got less time. Often the amount of people that go, oh, you know what, yeah, I'll put it off. We got, the days are shorter. The days aren't shorter. Yeah? We've got 86,400 seconds every day. The days are not shorter. They have not changed. The daylight is shorter, not the days are shorter. Just bear that in mind, okay? And make sure you spend time in the recovery zone. Book in time to chill out, to recover, to relax, because that's just as important. If you don't do that, you can't do the performance zone, okay? Look to the future. When we get into winter sometimes, it maybe stops us doing some things. Remember what I said though, days aren't shorter, daylight is shorter, so not always. However, there might be some things that you want to do in the summer or the spring next year. That's absolutely fine. Don't let the minutiae of the day in the winter take over. Don't get stuck in a rut during the day. Remind yourself of the bigger picture. Do you know what? Spring will come as well, that's okay. Plan what you're going to do in the spring and summer. I have already got plans in my head of what I'm doing as soon as the spring comes and as soon as the summer comes. Yeah, there's certain things in the garden that I want to do that I could do in the winter, but actually it's probably going to be more enjoyable if I do them in the spring and the summer. So plan out what you're going to do. Look to the future. Yeah? Come on, let's be optimistic. They reckon by end of spring, yeah, we're going to have vaccines. You know, we're going to be in a much better position from a COVID point of view. How great is that going to be? So let's plan it out now. We don't want to just get there, do we? Yeah. Use this time to put yourself in the position of most opportunity. Okay, the position of most opportunity. Yeah, you guys know I've done a whole section on this. In fact, there's a section on the YouTube channel about getting into the position of the most opportunity for when you need to take those opportunities. So plan out what you're going to do now for the spring and the summer next year, okay? And finally, okay, how are you going to talk to yourself? Remember, guys, and I know with some of you I've done this in with detail. If you're new to the calls, go onto the YouTube channel, check this stuff out. But your results are expected in life. Your actions are normally given. We get stuck in a rut. Your actions are generated from your emotions. Emotions are often not considered. In fact, we don't talk about them enough, whereas actually we should get them out and really focus them and increase that energy. And our emotions are driven by our thinking, and our thinking is normally assumed. We normally assume people have the right thinking skill. We want to think in a helpful way rather than a hindering way. If you think in a helpful way, you can generate and focus your emotions. That will give you better actions that will ultimately get you better results. In short, the quickest example I can give you, if you woke up this morning and went, okay, it's going to be a good day, I've got a couple of sessions with John, I've got some stuff in my list I'm going to tick off, I'm going to speak to a few people, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to get to the end of the day, I'm going to do a bit of exercise. If you woke up and said all of that this morning, I'll guarantee you, you're going to have a good day. However, if you woke up this morning and went, oh, I'm knackered, guess what's going to happen? You're probably going to struggle to get through the day, you're going to be knackered, and you're probably going to be knackered by the time you get to 5 o'clock, and then you're going to go, oh God, it feels like bedtime early, doesn't it? Okay, remember, we need to trick that melatonin. How can we trick the melatonin? The best way, without a light box, is to make sure you know what you are saying to yourself. So, change thinking. Helpful self-talk equals helpful feelings. What to say when you talk to yourself? For people that have done this session before, there's a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I know Peter Law that's on the call today has read that book and found it very, very, very useful. Please go and Google it. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. It's about £3 on Amazon. Absolutely brilliant. Break self-talk down. Will make a big difference if you follow it. Fight, flight, change ourselves. When it comes to us being miserable, we have two choices. Do we fight it? Do we exit from it? Or do we change the way we think about it? Sometimes we can't fight it. Sometimes we don't want to exit from it. So what we need to do is change the way we think.